What's up? Welcome back to Project Freelance. I want to tell you guys a story, okay? A couple of years ago, I was at a local show, and I don't really know the exact day or time or whatever the fuck the show was, but I met this guy named Jon Wolfe, Jon Wolfe, and I don't know what happened, but somehow we have become really freaking close, and I look up to the guy so very much. He has done so much in the music industry. He is a hired gun. He has a new band called Vespera that you need to go check out. I filmed a bunch of behind the scenes footage for their music videos that they're putting out. So please go support those guys, support Jon, but mostly support his dog, Kita, because she's amazing. But yes, in this episode of the podcast, first, I need to give you guys a disclaimer. This is a very harsh, honest podcast about the industry, the music industry. And I wanted Johnny to open up and tell me stories about some things that he's gone through and people that he has, worked with and fallen out of relationship with, and problems with the industry, the ins and outs, everything, mental health on the road. You guys, this podcast is so full of information that if you are an artist that is struggling to make your dream a reality, please listen to this podcast. If you guys are just wanting to know more about how the industry works, this podcast is for you. If you guys like it, please give it a rating down below, comment, share it. You guys know the drill. You know how it works. If you guys want to find me, you can at KNagoniaPhotography.com or KNagoniaPhotography on Instagram and Facebook. But without further ado, I want to introduce you guys to Jon Wolfe. Jon?
Hey guys, my name's Jonathan Wolfe, and I sing for the band Vespera. I produce bands on the side for fun.
Tell me how you got started, in the industry.
I started off in the Miami local scene, in the hardcore scene, and I kind of just grew up into it. I started at a very young age. I snuck out to my first show when I was 10 or something like that, 11, and I had older friends, so they would always try to get me to go, and I was the big FOMO, especially as a little kid. I'm I just want to hang out with the cool kids. So one thing led to another, and I jumped into my first band. I don't even remember the name of it. I had bands all throughout middle school and stuff, and that's kind of where it all started. And then I played for my first signed band when I was 16, called And Then There Was You, and we were on Indianola, which is really tight, and I missed out on prom and stuff like that to go on tour, which is super cool. Looking back at it, that was definitely a unique experience. But I worked, I always liked to write with people. I really love songwriting, so I just started writing with a bunch of bands in the area and all that kind of stuff. One thing led to another, and names get passed around back and forth as they do in this industry. And next thing you know, I was getting a job offer in LA. And at a point where I had to quit music, because I was in a band and then another band, and then I was okay, maybe I should go to college and kind of do the real thing and just be an adult. And then something in me was nope, fuck that. So I had dropped out of college too, with that job offer and all that, and quit my job and moved out west, and I moved to LA at the young age of 19. I was 20. Yeah, I was 20, and yeah, that's pretty much where it all kind of happened. And then living in LA, I started working as a producer and as a songwriter, and I got into artist development and all that kind of stuff with a bunch of different people. I was constantly just being hired to do that stuff. And then at one point, the main group of people that I was working with, we got bought out at the end of 2012. And my mentor was hey, don't keep doing this. Go on stage, because in all reality, I was miserable. As much as I love doing it, I really I feel my best, and I feel most alive when I'm standing on a stage and performing to people. And that's always been a thing since I was a kid. I remember being 3 years old and just imagining man, imagine just standing on a stage and just playing to just all these people and all that. And coming to find out, many years later, that's exactly the reality that I built for myself. So I took his advice, and I had my own band that I had formed in between. It was called The Hollowed, and I had like written the songs before I had moved to LA, and then after I wasn't really working as a full-time producer or anything like that anymore, I brought back those songs, which is like the worst idea. I should have just started fresh. But I had done that, and then I had played for another band called Dayshell on Sumerian for a quick minute. I filled in for a band called Nightmares. I'd also played for Falling in Reverse and Slaves, and kind of like that was like my whole amalgamation where I started playing just consistently between my band and other people's bands. Again, I was pretty much living my childhood. And then in 2015, I took a hiatus and moved up to Seattle. And now I'm back to doing it again because I realized that I truly resonate with music, and it's the only thing that, I don't want to say like the cheesy thing where it's the only thing that makes sense to me, but it's where I find my happiness. And I have realized after all these years on planet Earth that money means nothing to me, notoriety and fame means nothing to me. It's happiness, and music literally is what brings me happiness every single day.
Wow, that was so amazing. Can you just keep talking for like the next hour? Wow. Okay, go back to your mentor real quick. Tell me who he is, or she.
I don't want to be known as a studio producer anymore. Like now me doing Vespera, I really want to just be known as an artist. I don't want anyone to think there was like an advantage or anything like that. Oh yeah,
I feel you.
You know, it's like I want to come in as a fresh face, fresh person. Like if you know me, you know what I've done, great. But if you have no idea what I've done in the past, then great. Because I'd rather it be that way. I'd rather be like a new act, not like something recycled. I don't want to feel like a has-been or anything like that, if that makes sense. It's really exciting to do Vespera now because I'm finally with the bandmates that I've always dreamed of working with. That's not to say that I haven't been with some amazing people in the past. Like in some of my old bands, there are people that I still talk to this day that I love. They're great people, amazing musicians, but they're off doing their own thing, you know, and I've always kind of had a vision for myself. And now I have guys who we all believe in each other. It's not just me, but we all believe in each other and we all work as a team. It's amazing. Like there's no egos. There's no kind of pettiness or anything like that. There's no contempt. There's just nothing but love. And, you know, three of us live together, and then our bass player is 3 hours south, but he comes up and it's just like, you know, like running into your brother, literally. These guys are actual family to me, and it's amazing. And I'm so excited to tour with these guys. Holy crap. Like living with them has been amazing. Touring with them is just going to be even better because just the day-to-day experience of just being together in the house is like, I don't know, it's amazing. And I think I've been on tour enough where like my personality doesn't change. I'm kind of the same person no matter what. You know, touring is my life. That's all I've ever done. So my personality, I think, kind of comes off of that. So it's not like anything's going to change, at least for me. You know, I'm sure we'll all get homesick and all that kind of stuff. And it sucks when you're sick or something like that on tour, but we all take care of each other now, and we're all so respectful of each other's personal space and all that, and just, I don't know, we're teams.
Talk about growing up, like, as a young musician and going on your first couple of tours and what your parents thought about all of that stuff.
Oh, man. Whew. You should have seen the look on my mom's face the first time I told her, like, way later on in life that I had actually snuck out to go on, you know, tours and stuff like that, because she's a police officer. So, you know, that's kind of funny in its own, you know, like feel. It's like I'm sneaking out under a cop's nose. But that's besides the point. Growing up as a young musician, man, I think it's like this for everyone, where you kind of, you have like this illusion of grandeur to it. You're like, you know, you see it on TV, especially like at my age, you know, for our like grouping of people like around our age group, we had like Fuse TV, and MTV was still playing music, and VH1 and all these other things. So that was like me growing up, where I would just like watch all these bands and all these artists, you know, emerging when I'm at this, you know, at 9 to like 14 years old. And that's all I wanted. So I grew up into that. I played in jazz band and all that kind of stuff in like middle school and high school. I started off with the recorder. That was like my big push into music, which is really weird to think about. That annoying little flute. Before that, it was like piano. When I was 3, like my grandmother had a piano in her house, and I would like sit there and fuck with it, not knowing what the hell I was doing. But I was like, I love this. And then my great grandmother gave me an accordion, which is weird. And I got a classical guitar when I was 8 years old, and I was just playing that. But finally, like, it got for real when I was leaving elementary school into middle school, and I was like, oh, I have to play a real instrument now. I can't just play this annoying little plastic thing. So I started off with the flute, and I was miserable. I was like, get me out of this. Like, I got made fun of so much. I'm like, oh, John plays the flute. I even, like, took lessons and everything. And then I started off middle school, and within a week, our band director was like, does anyone here play guitar? We need a bass player, because the bassist that was in the jazz band was going to leave, after that year. He was going to graduate. So my hand shot up so goddamn fast. I was like, get me out of here. And I bought my first bass, and it was like all downhill from there. I would stay after school for hours upon hours, just jamming with people and all that. We had like our own little like jam bands. And then finally, I think when I was like 15 is when I started doing like the local shows and all that kind of stuff. And man, there's so many bands, I don't even remember half their names. Let me put it that way. I was like the band whore. I was in every band. I just wanted to do music. I was obsessed. I still am. Obviously, I have to do more adult things now, but at that age, I had nothing better to do than to play video games, go to school, and do music. And that was my obsession. That's all I wanted to do. I just played in bands. I rehearsed all the frickin' time. Every weekend I was at shows, and that continued on up until I moved out of here. I was very involved with the local scene. I was very involved in just music, and that was pretty much it. I did my first tour when I was like 15-ish. It was like a weekend warrior thing, so you can't really count it as one. But when you have to drive through Florida, it's a nightmare, and it feels like a 3-day tour will feel like a month-long tour down there. It sucks. I did merch for this hardcore band out here, and that's kind of like that's when I got really ruined. I was like, oh my fucking god, I love this. And shortly afterwards, it was all downhill from there. Every summer I would go out. And then, obviously during school season, all that kind of stuff, I couldn't really go, but I'll never forget the time that my mom actually let me skip prom to go out on the road. Yeah, I was like, I'm still in shock to this day. There's like, my mom was very hard line. No, like, you have to go to school. You have to do X amount of things. And I begged her. I was like, please let me play this small, it was a small tour. It was like a showcase for the label and all this kind of stuff. I was like, please. And somehow I convinced her. I don't know what the hell happened, but I think she saw that I really wanted it. I just annoyed the hell out of her. And I did that all up until 19, and then I moved to LA, and I didn't tour for a minute, and I really missed it. I just sat in a studio all freaking day. And and then once I finished up with all that, or once I got sick of it, pretty much, I started touring again, and God, it was crazy to see how much everything had changed in that small break. But I was also doing like the biggest tours of my life at that point. Although pre-2009, you could pack out a local show with 400 kids, and it wasn't that hard. I don't know what happened in between, but it's like I went into a coma, woke up, and like the world was over. I was like, wait, what happened to the world of music? It was very different. But that all changed quickly. Playing for Falling in Reverse was cool in the sense of it might not have been the music that I personally listened to or enjoy creating, but being able to connect with so many freaking people and just standing out and just seeing all these people so drawn in and just they're really enjoying themselves. That was really inspiring. I think about that to this day, where it's like seeing how people reacted every single day and just, man, their hearts were in it. That really made me want to do it again, because it's like, okay, if I was able to do it for someone else or with someone else, for someone else, why can't I do it for myself? Like I have things that I want to connect with people about. There's a lot that I want to talk about. There's a lot of things that I think are very unspoken. And I'm super down to talk about and connect with people and, give each other emotional, half crying hugs if we need to. I love the emotional connection that music brings. Like it has been my healing tool, and it has been like, it has helped dictate my mood, or it just kind of helps, it kind of helps support my mood. When I'm sad, I listen to a good sad song, I feel good. It's like something, it's like, you can share that experience. And then when you're stoked and you're going to go out and have a good time with your friends, you have those same songs as well. So, yeah, music.
I've noticed as well that the scene has drastically diminished, the amount of local bands playing shows, the amount of kids going to shows. And I don't know if you feel the same way as I do, but I feel like social media has a lot to do with that.
It does. And I don't have an answer. Like, I'm not like, well, this is why, but I can throw out theories as to things that I've noticed. Like, music for a long time, and for everyone who's listening, has always been built upon the illusion. It's like, you look at these old artists, you look at back in the day, you're like, oh my God, there's this illusion of grandeur that we would have towards a person. We're like, oh my God, from like the Ozzy Osbournes and Frank Sinatra's even, like, going way back, and the Beatles, like the fixations that people had. And that was because there was only a momentary, like, it was just a small moment to connect with someone and see them and like be around them. We didn't have social media back in the day. When the Beatles are coming in, like, you heard on the radio, hey, the Beatles are coming to play. And it's not like you could download their music or watch a live video on YouTube or anything like that. You just went out and saw them. Dude, they would play one song and there was a line of people on the street, like, just like they welcomed them in. Sorry, I can't speak English today. Welcoming them in. And it's crazy to think, because now it's the complete opposite. Back in the day, it was like people were so fixated with grabbing the attention of these musicians, and they were so stoked that they would come into the cities. And people are still like that, but there's this whole other side now where I feel like people now feel as if they need to be impressed by the artist, not the other way around. They don't like go out seeking music to connect with and something that helps them with their mood or whatever it may be. They don't go and seek music as a collective. Nowadays, I feel like most people want to sit there and criticize, and they want music to be written for them, which to that I say, well, write your own fucking music then for yourself, rather than expecting other people to, to do exactly what you want. I think social media does have a lot to do with it, but at the same time, it's also helped people emerge out of nowhere. It's a double-edged sword. It's a give and take. And I think the most important thing is that people just need to realize that, yeah, music is diminishing, and it's because this is a group effort. Like, the musician creates the music, the fans go out and support that musician. It's a symbiotic relationship, and you have to take care of each other. That's literally what it is. And I mean, it's not just the fans. The bands are equally guilty too. One of the bands that I played for wouldn't allow me to go out and connect with fans. They wouldn't allow me to go out and speak to them and just like and engage in conversation and potentially make a friend, even though it's someone that I might not talk to all the time, but someone that every time I'm in town, we run into each other. Hey, how's everything going? Like just a nice, simple friendship, which I think is lacking, because when you think about it, if you talk to people from back in the day, I talk to people older than me about it, and I ask them, they're like, oh yeah, I was friends with so-and-so and so-and-so, because they'd always come into town, and, you just build up a rapport with them, and, like, there was this, I don't know, there was human interaction. I think there's a lot less of it now, which, I mean, this is just my opinion, because other people will say, no, man, it's all about the absolute illusion. It's the mystery. You can't go out and talk to these people. You have to make yourself seem unreachable, untouchable. And I'm like, I get it, but I don't at the same time, because I'd rather be like the people person rather than be like the isolated musician. Does that make sense? I want people to know me as who I am, because I think I'm a decent human being, and I want to be able to connect with people and talk, whether I speak to them through the music or we actually have a conversation outside of a show. I think that's important. But to tie it all back together, I think that the reason why it's diminishing is because there isn't a solid relationship between the artist and the fans. I think both sides have different expectations, and I think that is what has ultimately just kind of slowly killed us. Because I went to Warped Tour this year, and I think this is the smallest I'd ever seen it. Not to like bash it, but I or anything like that, because I grew up, dude, I've went to so many Warped Tours. I've worked Warped Tour before. I love it. I love the vibe. Like, I remember leaving, after like the day was over. When I was a kid, I was so depressed. I was like, it's over. Oh my God. Like, I just want to do that again. Can you imagine just a whole day of music? That's like heaven for me. Seeing how small Warped has been, I mean, I saw it kind of like dwindle down from even further back, because in Miami, for example, we used to have it at Bayfront Park, which is a huge place. And then at one point it got moved up to West Palm Beach, which is an hour and a half up north from where it was at before. And it was a bit more compact of a venue. And I was like, oh, this isn't as cool. And then, I've been to several of them all around the country. And now I live in Seattle. And I know that they used to have it at the Gorge, which is a huge, beautiful venue. And then they had it at the White River Amphitheater. And now it was like at a parking lot in the middle of downtown Seattle, and I was like, this is strange. It was a clusterfuck. And all those signs point towards just people not wanting to go to shows anymore. Like, I don't know if it's that they don't want to be there, if they don't like the bands that are there, or if they just rather go on YouTube. I don't know. But here's the reality of the situation. If you love music, you do need to put money into it. Like, there is no other way to say it. It's very plain and simple. If you like music and you want to keep it going and you want to support the arts and you want, the musicians that you believe in to continue going, you have to keep showing up. Even if you're sick of it. And I get, man, it's been tough financially for a lot of people lately. I've got friends that are working 3 jobs just trying to keep the lights on and the food on the table and a roof over the head. And I get, like, everyone has their struggles, but if you have the time and the chance, man, make it happen. That, and I feel like everyone just kind of grows up at one point, and instead of going to the shows and hanging out, because that's what everyone does, I think, when they're like below 18, 21, they all turn 21, they start going to the bars and clubs, and instead of putting their money into music and merch and all that kind of stuff as they used to once upon a time, it's now going towards alcohol and drugs and God knows whatever, which, you know what? That's your life. You do whatever the hell you want. I'm not here to say anything about that. All I can say is there's a transitional period where a big group of fans kind of move on, college happens, they move, or God knows what. And from there, it's really hard to keep doing the same thing. Like me moving from Miami to LA, then LA to Seattle. And I could only imagine like someone moving from city A to city B, like trying to get into the local scene. It might not be easy. That, dude, honestly, here's one thing I will kind of bitch about. People in the local scene are not very friendly to outsiders.
Oh my God, right?
It's really weird because when I grew up in the scene, at least in Miami, it was very hardcore in the sense of we were very welcoming. We did not tolerate racism. We did not tolerate violence. We did not tolerate gang violence. Like there was hardcore crews that would come around, and they were more of like extra security than anything. At least in my experiences. I know that for other places it's been something else, and I can't speak on that, but at least what I grew up in, everyone was very welcoming and just, I don't know, man, it's like you came in, you were automatically like part of the scene. You were a brother or a sister, unless you did something stupid, and that's, then you get ostracized and that's your fault. But I feel like people are very judgmental and critical compared to before. Like 10 years ago, 15 years ago even, I remember a very heartfelt, community-driven scene, and I felt safe. Like I never had to feel unsafe. I never felt excluded. And I feel as if over time, everyone's arms are crossing just a little bit tighter, and everyone's just a little bit more critical and a little bit more, I don't know if it's like them being mean-spirited or people just kind of like being on guard because other people are garbage sometimes. But it sucks because music is supposed to be a safe place. And with all these critical people coming around, it makes it very hard for others to feel welcomed. I'll walk into shows. There's one specific show in Seattle where I'll never forget. I was standing there and I'm, watching this band play, and I'm watching people that played the show as well as fans of other bands, whatever, just people that were at the show making fun of this band on stage because they were kind of dressed like goths. And that really bothered me because that's not what I grew up in. Like, in the hardcore scene, especially like the underground hardcore punk scene, whether you wanted to wear eyeliner, tight jeans, khakis, God forbid, rather cargo shorts, you know, if you want to wear a fucking dress on stage and you're a dude, it didn't matter for us. Like, we didn't care. We were like, fuck yeah, dude. We celebrated people being unique. Now everyone's so desperate to fit an image, and it's kind of ruined it. It's like no one embraces individuality anymore. They rather just all look the same. So now they have, like, I make fun of the hardcore kid costume. It's like a black shirt, khaki shorts, Nike SB Dunks, and a fucking snapback. And they all listen to the same 4 bands and fuck anything that doesn't sound like that. I'm like, oh man, you have to have an open mind. Like, this is art. Art is not here to be criticized. If you want to criticize music, go be a producer or go be a fucking critic or something like that, but you need to enjoy it first and foremost. Stop sitting and listening to music and saying, well, I would have done this and this and this and this is bad and the mix and blah, 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 blah. It's like, dude, just listen to it for what it is, man. Like, someone put their heart and soul into this and their money and their time. It took me 4 months to do my record from start to finish. You know, I put a lot of time. I lived in a fucking basement underground on and off in Bethesda, Maryland for 4 months. That shit was not fun. The last thing I want to hear someone say after, like, you know, when I show my work to someone is, like, that's cool, but, like, I would have, like, done this because, like, blah, 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 blah. Which, I can appreciate constructive criticism, but if that's the only thing that comes out of your mouth, man, I'm gonna be a little pissed off. It's like, that's it? That's all you have to say? Like...
Yeah. It's so true. It's so true. I've seen it a lot, you know, and I think that more than the local scene issue, I think that is definitely a social media thing. And, like, going back to, you know, people need to go to shows. I think an issue with that is because we're so attached to, you know, being online and not interacting with people. And you're right. We lack that humanity, that communication that you were talking about. And I was listening to a podcast the other day, and the person said, like, now because of the state of things and the way we're progressing away from being a community, we're starting to be alone together. You know what I mean? Because, like, you're always alone. You're always with just your phone, you know? So we're alone together. It's crazy.
Which is weird to me because I have 2 fucking different personalities. Like, there's some days where I do not want to talk to anyone. I just want to sit at home and, like, get work done or just kind of, like, have a day to myself. But I really thrive on being around people. I really love interacting and talking to strangers, especially, and getting to know them and just knowing their life story. Like, I personally fucking love it. And I'll say this for anyone that's listening. I was an introvert growing up. I was a very shy kid. Like, I had a stutter at one point. It was really hard for me to talk. I felt very locked up. I don't know why. But at one point, I kind of looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, I need to get myself out of this. Like, I need to start being a little bit more, I don't know, talkative and just I need to connect with more people. You know, and, like, in school it was easy because I grew up with these kids since, like, literally, I have friends that I've known since I was, like, 6 years old, 5 years old, or something like that I still talk to this day. So it was kind of easy because we're familiar. But outside of that, I was very shy. Like, I'd go to a show at first. I was like, ugh. And then at one point, you know, everyone's coming over to you. And it's like, okay, I need to, like, warm up to people a little bit more. Like, these people have good intentions, clearly. And even if they don't, you know, you got to give everyone a shot, man. You can't get burned by one person or by one experience and then completely run off and be like, oh, I'll never do that again. Fuck that. Like, you know, you got to be open-minded. And I think that's definitely something that has affected everyone as well. Just no one has an open mind, so now everyone would rather be alone together but completely separated, just living in their own fucking bubble because they don't want to be judged or, you know, or criticized. They just don't want to deal with the negativity that we kind of are subjected to when we walk out of our door sometimes. It's just, man, it's not like safe times right now. It's weird. It's weird, man. Everything is really weird right now, and my heart hurts a lot because we need the complete opposite, and there is, like, this driving force that's just trying to separate people, and it's just forcing people to be more isolated more than ever, which is crazy because it's like, this is like the age of information. Like, we have smartphones. Like, I've been watching this TV show that takes place in the 90s and seeing like the difference in communication then to now. I'm like, oh my God, like we have it so good. We literally have like a smart computer on our phone. Like it's in our pocket. Like the equivalent to this in 1995 would have taken up an entire fucking room. Now we have this in our pocket. We can communicate with anyone, yet we don't. We'd rather sit on YouTube and just criticize people behind, you know, an anonymous account or something, or just being like, God, I could rant about this for days. Ugh.
It's probably my favorite topic.
Dude, I get worked up over it, but at the same time, I've kind of like let it go, and I've just realized people are going to be people, and the only thing that you can do is to be the best example of yourself and hope that others will follow. Lead by example, man. That's it. That's been my mission statement. I'm just going to try to be the best person I can be. We're all going to make mistakes at one point, and we all have our issues, but if you just try to walk on the best path every single day, other people will take notice, and you know, maybe they'll go on a walk with you, and maybe you can inspire some positivity in your local community.
Absolutely. I feel the exact same way about, you know, we need to figure out how to come back together. And for us, I mean, you and I specifically, and those that are listening that are musicians or tour or whatever, shows, like you said, used to be, or they're supposed to be a safe place. And now I don't even like Warped Tour. I was on Warped Tour all summer, and we had like, it was like almost like armed military police at every show. And like, you know, like I appreciate that because I live at that venue temporarily for the day. But in my mind, like it shouldn't be like that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, I'll never forget 2014, like second or third day of tour. I'm in Ohio and I find out we have a bomb threat. And I'm like, why? Why would there be a bomb threat at a fucking concert? Like, we don't suck that bad. Jesus. Like, it makes no sense to me. It's a very dark time overall, and I think we all need to make a collective effort to shine some light. You know, the music industry sometimes feels like an extension of high school, and I say this because I'm one of them. It's almost like Revenge of the Nerds, because let's be real, a lot of us are...
We were the nerdy kids, for sure.
Dude, I was a big fucking geek. I was
same.
4'6" in 6th grade. I was a pipsqueak. My bass, in its case, was my same height. I was just this little tiny nerdy kid. All I did was obsess over anime, video games, music. That was my entire life. You know, and there's a lot of those. But what happens is some of us... we're still the same person later on in life, but we're kind of disadvantaged, you know, middle school, high school, for our differences. You know, I definitely didn't fit in, especially in Miami, where I'm Hispanic, but I'm very whitewashed, very white looking. So in my school, I definitely didn't fit in because everyone was from South America pretty much. And that was like, okay, that was like problem one. Then problem two, I was a nerdy musician that just, you know, did not fit in. The girls wanted nothing to do with me. I wasn't like this tall, pretty Colombian boy or anything like that. It's a little tiny, short Cuban kid. And, you know, over time, you know, puberty hits and things get better, and all of a sudden in a band, you start getting you start getting positive attention from people. And to some people, it gets to their heads, and we're all guilty of it at a certain point. And what ends up happening, I feel, is people graduate from high school and then they get into music full time, or like things work out for them in the right way, and then they kind of bring that same high school mentality over to music, and it becomes the same thing where you've got like your different cliques and crews, and you know, you're picking on these people because of this, and that's where it's like, no man, that's not what music is about. Music is supposed to be about community and just like bonding over your differences and looking at each other's differences and finding a way to find a relation. You know, it's like that's how these genres of music have come out over time. You know, people did look at a band like the Beatles and go, oh, that's devil music, that's, you know, that's noise. But musicians and people that were more so transfixed into that world found a love for it, and then they found a way to morph it, and they made music evolve, and that's what it's all about. It's about bringing our differences together and evolving with them and becoming something new, and that's what we should be doing, and that's not what we're doing. Everyone's so transfixed on being an individual and being isolated and separated, and they're like, I'm not like them. It's like, but you should be. You should all be like together, despite your personal differences and all that kind of shit. Like, we should all be connecting at the end of the day with music. And whether, there is some awful music out there, I get it. I get it. There's some things where we all go, why? But for the stuff that you do enjoy, go out and enjoy it and introduce it to other people and just like get people involved and try to just bring people together. This is like, that's how music works. You have to bring people in and let it grow. You can't just like separate yourself and try to be isolated and everyone wants to be a fucking individual. It's like, dude, we're all the fucking same. Like, no matter your skin color, your ethnicity, your creed, or religion, whatever, we're all human beings at the end of the day. And if you're in music for the right reasons, connect with people, please. It's so important. Don't let it be about yourself. Don't let it feed your ego. Don't let it be like this whole like fame driven thing. Do music because it makes you feel good, and then connect with other people who also do the same thing. Create music with them or whatever. Like, help them, help each other out grow. And that's how the community is going to thrive again. We all need to come together. The Beatles said it best.
Absolutely. Yeah. And as far as like, starting a band and getting into a band, people forget that it is a business, it becomes a business and the money will come, but people forget that you have to, go out and reach people. You have to go out and like pass your CD out, and I feel like a lot of people forget what it's like to be in a struggling band, and people don't realize that businesses, like they say, it's an average of 3 years before the business gets off the ground. And I feel like people give up before that point, especially people in the local scene that, may not get any tour offers because they've only been doing it for like 2 years and they've only played at like 2-3 venues,
Yeah. Yeah, because we're all obsessed with the concept of instant gratification, and I think that's a huge problem. Dude, Rome wasn't built in a day, and I say this to all the bands because, I do consultations on the side now. Like, I'll have managers and bands call me, and we'll sit down for an hour, and we'll talk about what they're doing. And half the time, it's just a lack of patience. Not only that, but they have like this thing in their head that just, the people will come. It's like, no, dude, you have to like reach out. Like, you want to know why
you have to go find them.
Yeah, I mean, granted, promotion has changed. Like, guerrilla tactics are not as common anymore, but they were really effective, especially in the 80s and 90s for a reason. Going around flyering, going to local shows, passing out flyers, just talking to people. Don't even make it something so like disconnected. It's just like, hey, come to my show. You like music? Walk up to people and be like, hey, how you doing? My name is blah, and I do blah, blah, blah. Like, are you enjoying the show? Start having a conversation. Make a friend. Add each other on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever, Friendster. Like, you just connect with people truly. Don't just make it a surface thing and expect people to like cater to you just because you're in a band. It's not like that anymore. It's quite the opposite. Maybe 30 years ago, people were like, wow, you're in a band now? It's like, oh, you're in a band. Like, it's almost annoying, and you have to kind of work against that. Being patient and being humble are two of the most important things to grow as an artist. Like, without those two things, it's gonna fall apart. Hands down. Like, that's fucking opinion. That's a goddamn fact. You need to be patient and you need to be humble, because without those two things, you're gonna drive yourself crazy. A band isn't gonna blow up overnight. If it happens here and there with like a song or two, but you also don't want to be a one-hit wonder. If you want to be something that is effective and stays and does something for a while, something with longevity, you have to take your time, man. So many people cut corners and they think that if they cut every single corner and just push it out, that something will happen. It's like, nah, man. Like, it's a lot harder now than it ever was before. Even though we're, kind of dumb as a society sometimes.
Dumb.
Kind of, sometimes. I'm not going to take all the credit away from people, but our ears have adapted, and they have, like, our threshold for what is considered good and bad the bar is definitely raised to a certain extent. Especially with things like, auto-tune being introduced to the world and that kind of stuff. It's, you can really sell a manicured and perfected piece of work now. So everyone sounds good on record, you know what I mean? Like, you have to now impress people with your live show and, connecting and talking, whatever. But all that to say, you have to really put time into this now. If you're really serious about being in a band, if you really want to make it, you have to Like, there's certain things that you have to do. You cannot record all your shit on GarageBand and think, well, this'll work. No, man. Like, work with the producer who knows what they're doing. If you can't afford it, take the time to make the money to afford it. Don't just try to cut a corner and be like, well, I make $15 an hour and I could probably only put $300 into this whole fucking thing. It's like, no, man. Like, go work with the real producer who knows how to write music and can prepare you for what's to come ahead, because having good music and having well-recorded music is just one part to a very big puzzle. And I don't know if people don't realize that or if they just refuse to believe that. I don't know. But it blows my mind how many people don't agree with me on that. Sometimes they're like, no, man, I can write my own music, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, obviously you're in a band. You should be writing your own music, but you need a second opinion. And you're not going to get a second opinion from your friends, because half of them are just going to be like, dude, this sounds great, because they don't want to tell you what they really think. So go to a producer, like people like me, who will look at you dead in the eye and be like, this does not work. Let's do something else. Let's sit down with this and see how we can make it better. And then from there, man, there's like so much more that you have to do. Like getting a lawyer to ensure that your business doesn't fall apart, that, there's no like holes that people could attack you through. Make sure you trademark and copyright your music, and making sure you work with the right people to make sure that your image is proper. Like, there's so much that you have to do nowadays that you really have to take your time. Work with the right people so that you can get to the right place, because there's so many talented musicians out there that won't see just a pinch of success because they're either too lazy or they're like, I don't know, man. It's like they're unmotivated to wait. One of the bands that I'm working with now that I've been producing in my studio, it took a second at first because they're like, oh, got it. I'm like, listen, you can be in a band and still be working a full-time job at first. Like, let's take time in making these songs sound really good. Go back to work. Keep filling up your bank account. Be very responsible with your spending. Don't go buy video games and get hammered every weekend, stuff like that. Save your money. Save it. All of a sudden, you're like, wow, I have X amount of money. Now I can hire a really good publicist. Now I can, pay for this equipment and that. Like, just, I don't know, the sense of responsibility and patience and all that kind of shit has been thrown out the window. Everyone expects it because the internet's there and SoundCloud's there and Facebook is there, that if they can just grab their music, record it really shittily, throw it on the internet and just shove it down people's faces and just send it to your inbox. Hey, share this. Hey, share this. Hey, share this. That something's going to happen for them, and that tagging their band on every label's Facebook is going to work. It's not. There's a completely different approach to it, and people don't understand that. Rant over.
No, keep ranting, because I've been actually thinking about this very recently, because I've been, I look at my analytics and, I look at all kinds of stuff, and I market my stuff, and the statistics now, like the professionals, if you will, are saying people are starting to, everything looks like an ad nowadays. Everyone's trying to sell something. Everyone's trying to make some money, but people need that authenticity. Like, people crave you to be a real ass person, And so that just goes back to making a connection with people. And I feel like not to reiterate and beat a dead horse, but I feel like we need to figure out a way to change that and become more personable, because I don't know, we all sound like robots.
Yeah, man, and I don't know. Every time I look out and try to see what's going on and I try to fix it, I just aggravate myself. I tried having a huge outreach in Seattle. I was trying to get all the local musicians. I'm not talking about 20, 30 kids. I'm talking about, there are a ton of you. I've seen it. I've been to enough shows. All 200 of you that kind of, circulate around. Let's sit down and let's talk about stuff, and let's make this better for everyone. Let's see how we can improve everyone's bands and our marketing strategies and whatever it is that we're doing, so that the entire scene itself can flourish, because that's what you need. And people don't even want to do that. No, I think 50 people said that they were interested, and you know how that goes. You send out an event invite, it's like, oh, hey, thanks for showing up, Dad. And that's it. It's just, man, I think people are also just lazy, honestly. Everyone just expects things to be handed to them right now, and that's not how it works. And I until you get out of that habit, you don't deserve anything, honestly. Some people do have that kind of mentality, and they do get what they want, and it works out for them. But then at one point it won't. That's one thing that I've learned. Adopting that kind of personality is just very counterintuitive, and it's just it doesn't guarantee longevity in a career. I'll tell you that much. The sense of entitlement sucks. No one wants to deal with that kind of person. They'll endure it sometimes because, they're making money off of you maybe, but that's it. And the second you stop making money for them, they're not going to be inclined to do anything for you, especially if you're not being a real ass person. Like, God. I'm not going to get into that.
So my last question for you, I ask this to everybody that I talk to that is, successful doing what they do. What is one thing you know now that you wish you knew when you started? And I think I've asked you this before, like in person, but, tell the people.
Oh, man, hold on. I got to think about this because I feel like you keep learning more and more each and every day, which is a great thing. But like, damn. Like, it's like if there's one thing that I would recommend to everyone, do your fucking research. Sit down, grab a fucking laptop or on your phone, go to a damn library if you don't have either, if you have like a Boost mobile phone, it doesn't matter. Go find out what's going on. I know it's going to be annoying having to sit down on Google for hours upon hours, but that's what we all do. When I moved up to Seattle and I was on hiatus, that's what I did. I sat down and I studied my industry. I sat down and I studied the movement. I studied how it was going. Mind you, I do have more experience behind the scenes, so I have a different understanding of it, and that's a whole other different story. But even for an amateur musician, there are so many tools on the internet that you can use to grow, like your arts, your business. Do your research and don't be so dumb to just fall into the first thing, be like, okay, and don't follow the flavor of the month or the week even. That's how fast it's moving, man. Like 1 week to another, like people forget about what's going on. It's kind of ridiculous. Do your research. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Like, take the time, the money, the whatever, just learn. Don't have an ego. Have an open mind. Learn from people that might know more. It's really aggravating being in my position when I have a young band come up to me and they'll ask me questions. I'll give them honest answers and they're like, no, we're going to do this instead. I'm like, but I'm giving you the right answer. Why? So take your time and do the proper research. Learn. There's nothing wrong with it. Like, this is the age of information. We all have phones, I feel like. We all have smartphones. Instead of spending 20 hours on Instagram, Facebook, and Reddit, spend it, like, learning. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't understand why more people don't do it. If you care about this craft, put more time into it. Stop playing your video games. Stop going out to the clubs every weekend. Obviously, like, do things to make yourself happy. Like, you need to have, like, a balance in life, and which is the most important thing. But don't spend it all just doing, the video game thing, work thing, and, family thing. Maybe, some people have kids and all that, and the bar club thing, and then complain that you're not getting anywhere in music. Of course. Of course. What time are you putting into it? There are days where I'll sit there for 12 fucking hours just listening to new artists. Reading articles, looking up, go look up all the management groups, the bands that you love, look at the managers, look at the booking agents, and read about them. Some of these big prominent people have articles where they talk about stuff, and you can learn so much from them. You might not be able to have a conversation with them, but they'll write a blog, they'll write something that might actually have some knowledge for you. Take the time, take advantage. It's all in front of you. I wish we had this even 15 years ago. When my first tour, just to break off for a second, one person had a cell phone. And we had minutes. It's not like we could all just be on our phones all day. We literally entertained ourselves reading books or having a mini DVD player or something. You just sit and stare out the window for hours. Things have gotten so much easier for artists in the technological aspect. Take advantage of it, because you need to be on the forefront of that if you want to succeed in a industry that's kind of a sinking ship right now. I hate to say it, but kind of true.
Very true. Very, very, very true. And man, like I have enjoyed the hell out of having you on this podcast. Wow. You know, like a lot of people that, you know, make podcasts and stuff like this, like I feel like they don't have a conversation, and I feel like it's important to have a conversation and open up a dialogue about these things, like the local scene and like the way the industry is going and how we can help that and change it. And I think this will help people understand what it is that we do as artists a little bit better. And I think it'll help them appreciate the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I feel like a lot of people don't know, and I wish more people knew and understood, because man, being in a band is fun, but the work that we have to put into it is very exhausting, especially when you're doing it DIY. Like this past year and a half has been an emotional roller coaster for me. And most people will never see that. They'll never understand that. The amount of work that someone will put in. I was actually watching an interview yesterday from, what's his name? The guy, he's going as Big Shaq, but it's like a parody. I don't know if you knew that. Michael Dappa, I think is his name, where he was like, you know, people are so quick to give you shit because they're like, wow, man, you're just like an overnight success. You just go, blah, 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 and all of a sudden you're like, this big thing is like, no, man, you don't understand the amount of time that it took to get to that point. All the thinking and all the, like, the evolving and growing that has taken place to reach to that point. You know, people, I'm a big advocate for what I Prevail did. I think they're fucking killing it. I see so much bullshit. I don't know these guys at all. Their tour manager is like a friend of mine, and like, you know, it's not like we're like buddies, but you know, we're friends. I don't know anything about the guys besides what I've seen, and they're killing it. These guys got big off of a cover apparently, and people are giving them shit for them. Like, so fucking what? Like, be happy that they actually broke out, because it's so fucking hard. Holy shit. The fact that they sold over 100,000 records says something. Because I didn't think that was going to ever happen again for rock. Honestly, like, guitars are being thrown out the window. No one cares about it. The fact that this band was able to do it is a good sign. So instead of sitting there and being so shitty, be like, why them? Be glad that at least someone did it, because that is a sign that if they can do it, if you have this ego in your head where you're like, well, I could have done that, then do it, and then do it fucking better than them. Don't sit there and just criticize through YouTube and whatever, and with your friends and through Facebook. Take the initiative and inspire yourself to do better than that. Like, that's a good indication. The fact that a band could blow up from a cover, release a really cool record, and then sell over 100,000 of them, dude, that's amazing. I think Mastodon sold the most records last year or something like that. It was like 45,000, and I love Mastodon. And I was so sad to find out that the number was so low, in like more of like a worried way, in the sense of like, wow, dude, like I remember in the 90s, everyone had a gold record. Like selling 100,000 records was easy. 200,000 records was easy. Now it's like people are struggling just to sell 10,000 records. Some bands first week are selling 14,000 records when they should be selling maybe 10 times the amount. It doesn't make any sense to me. So the fact that all of a sudden there's this cool shift, you know, we've been talking about how we've been very grim with this whole podcast, talking about, yeah, you know, it's falling apart, blah, 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 blah. Let's turn around real quick. Let's talk about the positive. I think something exciting is about to take place. I think the old model has been exhausted beyond belief, and I think some very forward-thinking people are starting to get into the industry. I mean, like, you're one of them. I remember when I first met you to where you're at now, and I'm like fucking proud of you, because I know how hard you fucking work. And people like you are starting to come into this industry and are bringing with them this new air, and I think it's bringing back the industry. Maybe it's too early to say. I'm hoping that people have more conversations like this, like what we're having, these kind of podcasts where people can listen and be like, yo, I think something good is happening, so please fucking put some effort in, because if we don't take care of it, it's like a plant. If you don't water it, it will die, and we need it to grow. And I think it might be. The fact that this band was able to sell over 100,000 records is an indication that maybe things are going in the right direction. That, or this band is really fucking good at marketing, and they're just killing it. in a sinking ship of an industry, which, going back to what I had said, like 10 minutes ago, they got ahead of the curve. They were smart enough to sit there and say, this is what's going on. This is what we're going to do. And they're killing it. It's one of two things. I want to be an optimist and say that maybe the industry is headed in the right direction. I'm hearing all the new music that's coming out right now, and I'm like, some of these artists that are starting to come out are actually like very unique and very cool. And it's not like I'm hearing the same thing over and over again, because I feel like from 2010, we'll say, to 2015, 16, especially when I was working with pop, and across the board, in rock, metal, the underground scene to like pop stuff, I felt like I heard the same thing over and over and over again. I think people maybe are getting sick of it, and I'm hoping to God that the 90s are coming back right now, or like the same kind of vibe that the 90s had, where it was kind of like overproduced stuff, and like all this really cool shit came out in the 90s. I mean, if Nirvana didn't happen, we wouldn't have the scene that we have today. I'll tell you that fucking much, and people don't realize that. So I'm hoping that we're headed in the right direction. I don't know. I have this feeling, and I hope that I'm right on it, and I hope that more people will come in and make an effort to see it grow, because, man, I don't want to see this fall apart. I don't think you do either. I mean, you as a videographer and a musician, like, this is what we do. This is what we love, and I can't imagine having to do anything else. The fact that some prominent musicians are working jobs when they get off tour, it's like, man, that's not good. Like, that sucks. You should be able to get off of a tour and immediately start creating again for your next record. And the best records take years to make sometimes. Look at a band like Tool. At least in my personal opinion, they take years to make a record. But when they do, god damn, I still listen to it to this day. And I don't think people have enough time anymore. They're like, so we're all so busy trying to survive and trying to create that it's tough. So all that to say, I think we're finally headed into the right direction. So please, people that are listening, come out to more shows, make the effort. Like, if you care about music, you need to show it. Actions speak louder than words, and you can say that you love music and you can fill up your Spotify up and down and listen to music all day, but if you're not physically there, and if you're not kind of like giving a part of yourself to this industry, it's going to fall apart. It's unfortunate, but we all need each other. And I hope that people will kind of realize it at one point. This isn't a competition. This is a big collaboration. This is a collective. We should all be working together to survive. That's where we're at this point. That's like, how grim is that for music? Like, we need to survive. So I'm hoping that people will stop competing with each other and will instead start working with each other and start helping each other no matter what. I obviously don't be unconditional. If someone's a dick. Like, don't deal with them. But help people out, man. Be kind, help, show up, just be there. Just live music a little bit more, and we'll be okay.
Fingers crossed. Well, thank you for being on this podcast. I really appreciate your time. I know you're a busy ass person. You're literally leaving tomorrow to fly across the country.
Not yet. Going to New York first. So.
Which is, yeah.
I'm in Miami now, and I'm going to go up to New York, and then I'm going to go back home. But, dude, thank you so much for having me. I love anything that I could ever be involved with you. You know that I'm glad to be there. I support you 110%, and hell, let's do this again. Let's make this a conversation more next time. I feel like I just sat here and ranted, and you're like,
Well, I wanted this to be about you. I wanted people to have your insight. I mean, they've listened to a whole season of me just talking about me and what I do. So I wanted to expand it. So
let's do this again, where we go back and forth, like, we'll start yelling at each other. We'll be really dramatic. Fuck you! No, blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
We'll get real dramatic with it. Let's make it in person too, between two friends style.
Perfect.
We'll have a bunch of...
We'll film it as well.
Yes, it'll be great. Inflatable stuff so we can hit each other with it. It'll be so good.
For sure.
Get it?
We'll get oh man, what are those? Oh God, what are those giant? Remember those those things from the 90s? Can we bring those back?
Oh my God, please. That'd be great. But dude, let's do this again, man. I love talking about music. This is like my heart and soul. I've, now me getting closer to my 30s, I'm like realizing, oh my God, this is my whole life, and I have no problem with it. I'm so glad. So let's do this whenever. I fucking love doing this shit. Thank you for having me.
How was that, you guys? That was such a raw podcast. Here's the thing. A lot of people will edit their podcasts, but nah. I want to start a conversation. I want to have a dialogue. So it's these kind of stories and it's these kind of experiences that need to be shared, because I feel like if you're trying to get into the industry, you need to know about these things. And I also want to break down the barriers. I want to open up and have people talk about mental health on the road. There's these things that we all experience, and if we talk about them more, maybe we can help each other more. So if you guys want to know more about Jon, go follow him at Jon Wolfe. And if you would like to check out his band Vespera, you can check them out as well on Instagram, Vespera Official. All these links will be down below in the description of this podcast. But after you scroll down to that description, you need to leave a rating for me. 5 stars, please. 6 stars if it's available on your app, which it's not, but god damn it, I wish it was. iTunes, can you guys get on that? SoundCloud, Google Play, anybody? No? Well, okay, never mind. But yes, if you guys would like to give it a rating, it helps me as a podcaster. If you like to share it, hashtag Project Freelance. Find me at kanagoniophotography.com or at kanagoniophotography, and I will talk to you guys next week.